Hi everybody, I'm Bill Sanders and this is Watch Art Sci, the art and science of watch collection. Today we're going to be talking about a class that I took for Introduction to Watchmaking. It was actually a 4-course that the Horological Society of New York offered. And it was fantastic, and I got some pictures, and I want to talk about it. And I want to talk about it in terms of, okay, we're watch collectors. What do we care about watchmaking? And I hope to tell you. By the way, I have on my Harboring 2 Felix. That's the watch I'm wearing today. Okay, the first thing I want to do is that the watch of the week is this Aquanaut travel time. And this belongs to Healer 74. And what he did, he put a story together for us. That was sort of cool. So we're going to start with a story. And it starts off with a young hunter with the Patek Philippe logo and so forth. And he's hunting for a watch. And in the woods is a young lady with a watch. And she's got the horn for the answering horn, I guess. And the travel time Aquanaut. Now, the thing that's interesting to me about it is that I didn't realize that Aquanaut came in gold. I thought they were all steel. But here you have a gold one. It's an automatic, and it comes with a rubber strap. I don't know why that cracks me up. I mean, like, if I had a watch like that, I wouldn't go in the water with it. But anyway, so this is the next part of the story, and then moving right along, we take a look at this caliber is a 324. They have this long thing. I wrote it down here. It's a caliber 324 SC FUS. Now this may mean something to Patek Philippe collectors. So I thought I better have the whole thing. It's just a beautifully finished movement in there. And so that's the second part of the story. And moving right along, we sort of back up. You can see that it's sort of a mid-size for filling the case, but it does a really nice job. And you can see it's got a screw-down case for it, and I guess if you're an Aquanaut, you're going to want something like that. Beautiful, beautiful watch. Okay, and going along, here we have a little more of a close-up of the dial, and for the travel time, you can see on the left side is local, and on the right side is the home time, and at 6 o'clock they have a 31-day calendar. On the left side, you have two pushers for setting there's the dual time. So for setting the dual time, you have the pushers on the left, and also for setting the date. Okay, and the story ends when the hunter finds the watch and leaves the girl with nothing. So sort of an interesting story. She's got her horn, but no watch and no hunter. So anyhow, again, I want to thank Healer 74 for two things: for having a wonderful story, being able to find this artwork and integrate it so well with the watch. The browns and the golds in the watch are reflected in the artwork as well. And then he has those the Calatrava star in there, this Calatrava cross that Patek Philippe uses for its logo. Anyway, thanks again. That's sort of cool. The classes that were offered were by the Horological Society of New York, and they had them on Monday nights, one at a time. And so you'd sign up and you'd take one of the classes, and they had them in Manhattan, in New York City, and going from Connecticut in there, and then it's the time of evening. I'd probably have to stay overnight, and both the time and expense for one of these classes was, a little steep, and and plus the fact that I didn't belong to the society, and so by the time I found out about it, the classes were already filled up. And fortunately, I was Robert Velasquez, who also is part of the society and works at London Jewelers, said, "Hey, we got some room left," and so when I found that out, I signed up for it, and this one had all three of the classes. Now, essentially, what we did, that movement that you can see is inside of it's sort of like a vise that holds it while you work on it. And we were given 3 screwdrivers to work with, and something that worked like a pegwood stick it was for poking in, getting things in just right, or holding things down. One end was pointed, the other one looked like a screwdriver, and it was made out of some kind of anti-magnetic or non-magnetic material, and then a pair of tweezers, and that was it. And we were able to entirely disassemble this Unitas ETA 6497, and then we put it back together again. All of us were given this tray, and in the tray, as we took apart one part, we'd put the screws for it and the gears or the plates or whatever else we just took apart, and so that when we went to put it back together again, they'd all be grouped together. The one of the things we had these little finger covers, and on our non-dominant hand, which in my case was the right hand since I'm left-handed, we'd put one on the thumb, one on our index finger, and one on our middle finger. So we had these 3 little things, and so in this way we could hold the movement and then work with our dominant hand. Like I said, in my case it was left hand. Most people had the opposite. They had the 3 on their left hand, and then they would do the work with the right hand. There were 5 of us, and that was all they had in both classes, and both of them were filled. And they have this thing, it was really interesting, they had developed these portable tables, and they were like the ones you usually see where they're working on something, and they got their white coats on and they're looking down at through a loop. And the reason for the high table is so your arms, if they're rested, your hands can be very stable. And that was sort of a neat thing, I thought, was one of the things we learned. And then they had a lamp going over it. And you can see the tweezers there, and that, I wish I knew what they called the pointy thing. I call it sort of a pegwood stick of sorts. And the other elements we had, I've got, since I wear glasses, they gave me a little clip that I could put over the glasses. Otherwise, they just had a spring with the loop that went right into your eye. In my case, this really helped, and it had a little clip, and you can pop it up if you wanted to, sort of a wider look. So they had the loop with the glasses clip. They had a blue and red, and they also, that's not pictured there, is a green screwdriver. The entire thing was taken apart with 3 screwdrivers. And each time we went through a step, they'd tell us what screwdriver to use by indicating the color of the screwdriver, which really made it a lot easier. And there, again, on the table is 6497 movement. And the entire time we were doing this, we were really very constant. I mean, it took a lot of concentration. And so nobody was goofing around or anything like that. And we got a break, and then we took it apart all in one session, and we took a break and then put the whole thing back together again. And the amount of concentration that it took was that they just sort of rolled along. As soon as we were finished with one part, and they had on the screen, it was really neat the way they had it. They had up in the corner, they showed you what tools you needed. Sometimes we need the pokey thing. Sometimes we need one screwdriver or another, depending on the color. And then other times we just need the tweezers or a combination thereof. And the picture, they're working on the thing and with the arms up high like that, so everything was kept very steady. And now we're putting it back together again. And again, you had to had to concentrate a lot. One of the things that I liked about the 6497 is that I may have mentioned I'm taking this course that's been going on it's sort of at your own pace. I've been taking a snail's pace, and you put together it's like it's a clone of an ETA called a Salida. I think it's 2000 or 201.1, something like that, or maybe it's 210.1. I forgot. But anyway, it's just Salida that's pretty small, and so for anybody who's thinking of taking up watchmaking as a hobby, and it's sort of both a hobby and it's a way of learning more about watches. So sort of you get two things out of it, and I don't think I'll ever be a watchmaker. The most I think I'd ever be able to do is, if I take 3 more courses, is how to service one and adding oil and so forth. You don't add the oil with a big oil can. You have a little pointy thing that looks like a needle, and you just put it into these little sockets where you have some kind of friction between some pivoting and the movement, and of course, so where you have that, you can have friction, and to reduce the friction, you have to put in certain types of lubricants. Now, the lubricants are not all the same. In other words, it's not like you dump a can of oil in your car. Rather, there are certain points, pivot points, where you have to put one type of lubricant or another. Some have to be heavier than others have to be very light. So that's, like I said, that's a whole other class. So we didn't learn how to do that. We just learned how to take it apart and then put it back together again. And it was quite an experience. Now the entire thing took 4 hours. And it was a 5-hour class in case we had to take longer, but we started at 2 o'clock and we're finished by 6. And 4 hours of this kind of concentration it went like could have been 40 minutes instead of 4 hours. It went very quickly, and it was really a lot of fun. Okay, once we got finished, they had a certificate-like thing that was with our rubber tips on our non-dominant finger, and then we had a dog pile at the end. The instructor had on a watch I really liked, and that's the Rolex Cellini Prince. And there was another Rolex Blanc Pain, Cartier. I had on my H. Moser. There was a Truman, I think, and a couple others. I think it was a Breguet, and I think maybe a Breitling was the other one. But anyway, this is the dog pile we had at the end. So celebrate that we had completed it. And after the session, they had these great goodie bags for us. They held it at London Jewelers in Manhasset, New York. And in our goodie bag were all kinds of things. They had a catalog. They even we got a travel case, for a 2-watt travel case, cleaning fluid in a cloth, and this great big square with London Jewelers on it that was chocolate. And just to be on the safe side, I picked up something for get out of jail free card for my wife. That's always a good idea. And So anyway, let me talk a little about what's the purpose of taking any course like this. The one that I took and I'm taking, I haven't finished it yet, with time zone. It's the time zone course. It's basically what you have is a series of web pages, and as you go through the disassembly, that's as far as I got. I'm still disassembling. I'm almost done with it. I have to put it back together. The problem is I lost so many parts that I got to reorder the parts. And the reason if you're thinking of taking this up, do it with a bigger movement than a little wristwatch one. The 6498 and 6497 are very popular because they're bigger. I mean, ideally, you start with a clock. I mean, something nice and big, so you can keep track of the parts a lot easier. The 6497-98 is a great one though, because it is large. It was made for a pocket watch. It doesn't have as many parts as the little Salida that I'm working on, and the parts are bigger, and so you're not as likely to lose them. And I couldn't believe it. It took the whole thing apart, put it back together, and it worked. I thought for sure I had destroyed the hairspring. It kept falling out, and looked like one of those slinkies was going out. It's not supposed to do that. And here I am with my pink fingers trying to hold everything. It was quite an adventure, a lot of fun. And if you're in the New York area, oh, by the way, too, not only New York, but if you look for the Horological Society of New York having one in different cities, I think they've been in San Francisco, Chicago, and some different places where they'll put these on. And man, I tell you, they're really worth it. So if this is something that you're thinking about and you'd like to learn about watchmaking. Now, I don't know. I mean, I suppose some people I say, hey, I'd like to pick it up as a profession. This is a great place to start and see if you like it or not. And the instructor had been to the watchmaking school in Switzerland, and the assistant force, he may have been to one too, but they both were top notch. It was a lot of fun. So anyhow, helps you learn, if you're a collector, mainly like I am, it helps understand what goes into a movement and the quality of movement. I'm not about to take apart my Patek Philippe or my FP Journe or my Beauvais or even my Harbring 2. That's not the plan. Rather, what the plan is that I can buy a movement, and in fact, I already have. I bought a 6498, and I'm going to build my own watch just for the fun of it, and understand a little more about watches as a collector. And so that's as far as I'm going to be going, and maybe to the point in the future where I can service some of the simpler watches I have, and if they break, it won't be too big of a loss. Okay, well, listen, love to hear your opinion of this. I think the website is HSNY, Horological Society of New York. There may be a dash in there, but it's a .org, and you can just write in your browser, Horological Society of New York, and it'll come up with their website and stuff. And find out if they're going to have one in your city or one near you, and see if you could sign up for it. Okay, love to hear your opinion, and as always, this is an invitation to subscribe if you'd like. And until Sunday, this is Bill Sanders with Watch Art Sci, the art and science of watch collection.